What would you do if your truth was dismissed, your pride shattered, and your hero made a laughingstock? Just because of the color of his skin? When a young boy shares his father's truth at school, no one believes him. Until the shocking moment his dad walks in, badge in hand. The wind howled through the narrow alleys of Chicago, weaving around buildings like a restless spirit. Noah Johnson stood on the cracked sidewalk, his hands buried deep in the pockets of his worn, oversized jacket. The moving truck finally rumbled away, leaving behind faint tire marks on the cold, gray asphalt, and with it, any lingering sense of familiarity. Noah couldn't help but feel the gnawing unease in his stomach, a sensation all too familiar after countless moves. His father, Robert Johnson, stood a few feet away, his broad shoulders hunched against the bitter wind. Tall and stern, Robert looked every bit the part of a man accustomed to facing danger. As an FBI agent, Robert had faced armed criminals, high-stakes investigations, and threats that could shatter the average man. But today, his face was etched with an entirely different kind of worry, the kind that comes from uprooting a family and hoping, praying, that this time would be different. Lisa Johnson, warm and hopeful as always, placed a hand on Noah's shoulder. "You okay, honey?" she whispered, though the answer was already evident in his downcast eyes. Noah nodded, not trusting his voice to betray his frustration. They had left behind Washington, D.C., his school, his friends, all for what his parents called a fresh start. But how many fresh starts could one family endure before the paint started to chip and the walls crumbled? As the family crossed the lawn toward their new house, the neighborhood seemed to watch them with quiet suspicion. Curtains twitched and shadows moved behind the windows. A woman watering her plants across the street froze mid-motion, her eyes narrowing as she took in the sight of the newcomers. Noah didn't miss the way her gaze lingered on him just a little too long before she pretended to resume her task. It wasn't outright hostility, but it was something that cut just as deep, an unsettling curiosity, as if they were an exhibit in a museum of oddities. Inside the house, the air was thick with the smell of fresh paint and something else Noah couldn't quite place. Maybe it was loneliness or the echo of lives lived here before them. Noah wandered upstairs, choosing the smallest room at the end of the hall. It had a single window overlooking the street. He leaned against the sill, watching the neighborhood with wary eyes. The sun dipped below the skyline, casting long shadows that crept like fingers along the street. The first night was the hardest. Noah lay in bed, listening to the creaks and groans of the old house settling around them. The walls felt too close, pressing in with memories that weren't his. He wished he could sleep, but his mind raced, running through all the potential disasters awaiting him at his new school. His father had assured him that Lincoln Park Elementary would be fine, just another place to prove himself. But Noah knew better. He had learned that new towns didn't mean new beginnings, just new battles to fight. The next morning arrived shrouded in a dismal, foggy gloom. Lisa made breakfast, but Noah barely touched it, his appetite strangled by anxiety. "You'll do great, sweetheart," Lisa encouraged, tucking a note into his lunch bag. "Be yourself." But what if being himself wasn't enough? The walk to school felt endless. The sidewalks seemed narrower, the buildings taller, looming over him like judgmental giants. Kids clustered in groups outside Lincoln Park Elementary, their voices blending into an unintelligible buzz. Noah could feel their stares even before he looked up. He was the new kid again, the stranger with the uncertain smile and wary eyes. Mrs. Karen Blake was waiting at the door to homeroom. With her perfectly straight posture and glasses perched at the tip of her nose, she seemed more statue than human. When Noah stepped inside, she gave him a brief, uninterested glance. "Class, this is Noah Johnson. He's from Washington, D.C.," she announced, as if Noah were an old, dusty artifact pulled from storage. She didn't ask him to introduce himself or offer any encouragement. Instead, she pointed to a seat at the back. Noah's seatmate, Austin Miller, looked him over with a smirk. "Nice jacket. Did you get it from a donation bin?" Austin whispered, just loud enough for the kids nearby to snicker. Noah's cheeks burned, but he kept his head down, not wanting to give them more reason to notice him. The day dragged painfully, each period an endless cycle of teachers droning on and students ignoring him. At lunch, Noah found a spot at the far end of the cafeteria. He unwrapped his sandwich, but it tasted like cardboard. Austin and his group took the center table, their loud laughter echoing like a cruel soundtrack. Noah stared at his plate, willing himself to disappear. Walking home felt even heavier than the walk to school. His footsteps scraped against the pavement, and the weight of his loneliness pressed harder with each step. When he arrived, Robert was waiting on the porch, sensing something was off. "Tough day?" Noah shrugged, not trusting himself to speak. Robert nodded knowingly. "Takes time, buddy. I know it's hard." He ruffled Noah's hair gently, but it did little to lighten the weight in Noah's chest. That night, as the city buzzed outside his window, Noah lay awake, clutching his pillow. He thought of D.C., of the friends he used to race with after school, of the familiar faces that didn't look at him like he was something strange. Chicago didn't feel like a new beginning. It felt like a mistake. But Noah wasn't one to quit. His father had taught him that. Never back down from a challenge. Maybe Chicago wasn't ready for him. Maybe he'd just have to show them who he really was. The thought gave him a tiny spark of courage, just enough to let his tired eyes finally close. Tomorrow, he promised himself. Tomorrow would be different. The air in the classroom buzzed with excitement as Mrs. Karen Blake, impeccably dressed as always, tapped her manicured nails against the chalkboard. "Career Day is next week," she announced, her tone flat but purposeful. "You will each present what your parents do for a living. Prepare a short presentation. Make it interesting and factual, no tall tales." Her eyes briefly landed on Noah Johnson, just long enough for him to feel the weight of her expectation. Noah sank lower into his seat. Career Day was supposed to be fun, a chance to talk about family, to feel proud. Yet, sitting at the back of the room, he couldn't shake the dread pooling in his stomach. He'd been here before, new school, new faces, and the inevitable questions that never ended well. But this time, he wanted it to be different. After class, Austin Miller, still basking in his self-appointed role as classroom leader, bragged loudly about his dad's job. "My dad coaches the Chicago Cougars. You know, the best football team around," he boasted. His friends nodded approvingly, clearly used to hearing it. Noah didn't want to feel intimidated, but he couldn't help it. He knew his dad's job was just as impressive, more so, even. But would anyone believe him? That evening, at home, Noah sat at the kitchen table, sketching ideas on a notepad. His dad, Robert Johnson, leaned against the counter, still in his FBI jacket. "What's got you looking so serious?" Robert asked, pouring himself a cup of coffee. "Career Day," Noah mumbled. "I'm supposed to talk about your job. I want to make it good, but—" Robert took a seat across from him. "But what?" Noah hesitated. "I'm worried they won't believe me. Last time I tried to tell people, they just laughed." Robert's face softened. "That's because most people don't think someone like me does a job like this. It's about breaking stereotypes, son. You just have to be honest." Lisa Johnson joined them, drying her hands with a dish towel. "Why don't you show them the picture from the ceremony?" she suggested. "The one where you're standing next to your dad when he got that commendation." Noah brightened at the idea. He rummaged through the drawer and pulled out the frame photo. Robert, in his sharp suit, badge gleaming, and Noah by his side, grinning with pride. "This could work," Noah murmured, a flicker of hope igniting. The next few days, Noah practiced his presentation relentlessly. He memorized lines about teamwork, dedication, and the importance of honesty, qualities his dad exemplified. He rehearsed in front of the mirror, making sure his voice was steady, his words clear. At night he'd lie in bed, clutching the photo, picturing how the class might actually listen, how they might finally see him, not just as the new kid, but as someone worth knowing. Finally, career day arrived. The classroom was transformed with colorful posters and trinkets, trophies, certificates, even a model airplane one kid had brought in to represent his dad's job as a pilot. Noah stood by his desk, heart pounding, while Austin strutted confidently to the front. "My dad is the head coach of the Cougars," Austin declared, holding up a signed football. "He's coached them to 3 championships. Everyone knows him. He's the best." The class erupted into applause, and even Mrs. Isses. Blake offered a nod of approval. Austin shot a smirk at Noah, as if daring him to top that. Mrs. Blake cleared her throat. "Next, we have Noah." Swallowing his nerves, Noah approached the front, gripping the photo tightly. "My dad is an FBI agent," he began, voice steady despite the tension crawling up his spine. "He works in counterterrorism. That means he helps keep people safe from really dangerous threats." For a moment, the room was silent. Then Austin scoffed. "Yeah, right. You're making that up. Why would an FBI agent live around here?" Mrs. Blake crossed her arms. "Noah, we're here to discuss real jobs. It's important to be truthful." "It is true," Noah insisted, holding up the photo. "This is from when he got a special award for his work." But it was too late. Austin's laughter, harsh and mocking, set off a chain reaction. One by one, the kids joined in, some whispering, some openly jeering. Mrs. Blake didn't intervene, just shook her head as if disappointed in Noah's story. Humiliated, Noah felt the tears sting his eyes. He hurried back to his seat, trying to ignore the whispers and giggles. No one seemed to care that his dad really was a hero. They just saw a black kid making up stories. After class, Noah didn't wait for anyone. He bolted out the door, ran all the way home, and didn't stop until he was in his room, door shut tight. That evening, Robert found him curled up on his bed, still clutching the photo. "Noah, you want to tell me what happened?" Between sobs, Noah recounted the ordeal. Robert listened, his jaw clenching tighter with every word. Finally, he spoke. "People like Mrs. Blake, they don't expect someone who looks like me to wear a badge. Sometimes they're too narrow-minded to see past their own bias. But we're not going to let them make you feel small." Lisa joined them, her hands gentle on Noah's shoulders. "Your dad's right. You spoke your truth, and that's brave. We're proud of you." Robert knelt down, looking Noah square in the eyes. "Tomorrow, we're going back to that school, and I'm going to make sure they know exactly who I am." Noah nodded slowly, hope flickering back into his chest. Maybe this time, the truth would be enough. The morning after career day, the Johnson household was wrapped in a tense, uneasy silence. Robert Johnson sat at the kitchen table, his FBI badge resting in his hands, his expression unreadable. Lisa moved quietly around the room, preparing breakfast, but her eyes kept drifting toward Noah, who was picking at his cereal, his face still pale from the previous day's humiliation. Robert cleared his throat, breaking the quiet. "Noah, you ready to go?" Noah hesitated, barely glancing up. "Do I have to?" Lisa knelt beside him, placing a comforting hand on his shoulder. "Honey, you can't let them win. Running away only makes it worse." Robert nodded in agreement. "Your mom's right. We face things head on in this family. Besides, we've got some things to set straight." Noah looked up, confusion clouding his eyes. Robert gave him a reassuring nod. "We're going to the school together. I think it's time your teacher and your classmates see the truth." The drive to Lincoln Park Elementary was quieter than usual. Noah sat in the back seat, his fingers nervously tracing the edge of the photo he had brought to career day. Lisa drove while Robert sat in the passenger seat, his face set in a determined, almost defiant expression. When they arrived, Robert asked Lisa to wait in the car. He wanted to handle this himself. Noah trailed behind his father, feeling small but grateful for the strong, unyielding presence beside him. The hallways were buzzing with students, but the noise seemed to fall away as Robert strode confidently through the corridors, his every step purposeful. They reached Mrs. Blake's classroom just as the first bell rang. Noah hesitated at the doorway, but Robert gave him a gentle nudge. Taking a deep breath, Noah stepped inside. The class fell silent, curious eyes darting between Noah and his father. Mrs. Blake was at her desk reviewing papers, but looked up with a hint of annoyance. "Mr. Johnson? I wasn't expecting—" Robert cut her off, his tone calm but firm. "We need to talk." Mrs. Blake straightened, clearly uncomfortable with the disruption. "Perhaps we can discuss this later, Mr. Johnson. I'm in the middle of class." Robert ignored the protest. "Actually, now is perfect. You see, yesterday, my son came home upset because he was humiliated in front of the entire class. I think it's important we clear up some things. Right here, right now." Blake's face flushed, but she maintained her composure. "Mr. Johnson, if this is about Noah's presentation—" Robert held up his badge, the metal catching the morning light. The room collectively gasped, the quiet punctuated only by the shuffling of feet. "This is my identification. I am Robert Johnson, senior FBI agent. What my son told you yesterday was not a story, it was the truth." Austin, who had been half dozing in his seat, suddenly sat bolt upright, his mouth agape. The other students exchanged startled glances. Mrs. Blake, visibly stunned, struggled to regain control of the situation. I didn't realize." Robert didn't let her finish. "Noah worked hard on that presentation. He was proud of what I do, and instead of being supported, he was called a liar. You didn't just doubt him, you dismissed him in front of his peers." The weight of his words hung in the air. Mrs. Blake looked genuinely chastened. I, I'm sorry, Mr. Johnson. I didn't mean to." "It's not just about meaning well," Robert interjected. "It's about understanding the damage caused when you let assumptions cloud your judgment. My son deserves better." Turning to the class, Robert spoke more softly, his voice steady. "Sometimes people don't fit the image you expect. You look at me, and maybe you don't see an FBI agent. You see a black man, and some of you might think that means something else entirely. But that's the problem, isn't it? We're too quick to judge based on appearances." The students seemed to absorb his words, some looking down in shame. Austin stared at his desk, his face red. Robert approached Noah's seat, placing a hand on his son's shoulder. "You did good, Noah. I'm proud of you for telling the truth." Mrs. Blake cleared her throat. "Noah, I owe you an apology. I shouldn't have doubted you, and I certainly shouldn't have let the class laugh at you. I'm truly sorry." The apology felt genuine, and for the first time, Noah dared to meet his teacher's eyes. "It's okay," he whispered, though he wasn't sure it really was. Robert addressed the class one last time. "The truth is powerful, but it's also fragile. It takes courage to stand by it, even when others doubt you. I hope today you'll remember that." Mrs. Blake nodded, her posture less rigid, more contemplative. "Thank you, Mr. Johnson. I think we've all learned something today." As Robert left, Noah felt a rush of relief, pride mixing with the lingering pain of the previous day. Austin hesitated, then mumbled, "Sorry, Noah, I didn't know." Noah gave a small nod, still unsure of his feelings but appreciating the effort. As the class resumed, he felt lighter, as if a weight had finally lifted. His father's words lingered, reminding him that truth was worth fighting for, even when others couldn't see it. For the first time since moving to Chicago, Noah felt a hint of hope. Maybe things were going to get better after all. The days following Robert Johnson's intervention at Lincoln Park Elementary were marked by a significant shift in the classroom atmosphere. The once tense and unwelcoming environment began to soften. as if Robert's powerful words had shattered the invisible walls that had kept Noah at the margins. Students who had once whispered behind Noah's back now regarded him with curious, sometimes even respectful glances. Even Mrs. Blake's tone seemed to change when she spoke to him, her usual coldness replaced by something almost resembling warmth. But the most unexpected change came from Austin Miller. A few days after the confrontation, Austin approached Noah during lunch. He hesitated, his usual cocky demeanor replaced by a sheepish awkwardness. Noah, sitting alone at the far end of the cafeteria, looked up warily, unsure of what to expect. "Hey," Austin mumbled, shuffling his feet. "Can I sit?" Noah shrugged, his guard still up. Austin dropped his tray down and sat across from him, picking at his frieze. There was a long silence before Austin spoke. "You know, I didn't mean for things, say, to get that bad. I just thought you were making stuff up. I was wrong." Noah glanced at him, unsure whether to believe the apology. "Why did you think I was lying?" Austin shrugged, his face turning red. "I don't know. It just didn't seem real, you know. I never thought about FBI agents being like your dad." Noah's jaw tightened. "Because he's black?" Austin's eyes widened, guilt flashing across his face. "I guess, yeah. I never thought about it like that. I didn't know it was wrong to think that way. My dad always talks about those people when he sees stuff on the news. I guess I never questioned it." There was a heavy pause, and then Austin looked straight at Noah. "I'm sorry, okay? I was a jerk. I didn't know better, but I should have." Noah could feel the sincerity in Austin's voice. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. "Okay," he replied quietly. "But don't do it again. Just because something doesn't match what you think doesn't make it a lie." Austin nodded, looking down at his tray. After a moment, he nudged one of his fries toward Noah. "Want some?" Noah couldn't help but smile just a little. "Sure." From that day, a tentative friendship began to form. Austin wasn't used to apologizing, and Noah wasn't used to forgiving someone who had hurt him, but they found a strange balance between them. Austin invited Noah to join a pickup basketball game after school, and Noah, hesitant at first, eventually agreed. They weren't exactly friends yet, but they were moving in that direction. The real turning point came during Mrs. Blake's social studies class, when she introduced a new project about community heroes. "I want you to interview someone who makes a difference in your community," she announced. "Work in pairs." Austin immediately looked at Noah. "Want to partner up?" Noah was caught off guard. He wasn't sure if this was some kind of joke, but Austin seemed genuine. "Yeah, okay." They decided to interview Robert. Austin was nervous at first, but Robert greeted him warmly, shaking his hand with a firm grip that made Austin stand a little taller. As Robert spoke about his work, his dedication to justice, and the challenges he faced, Austin listened intently, his eyes wide with a mix of admiration and guilt. He had never imagined that someone like Noah's dad could do something so brave, so important. When the presentation day came, Noah and Austin stood side by side in front of the class. Austin started. "We interviewed Mr. Johnson, Noah's dad. He's a senior FBI agent and he works in counterterrorism. I didn't really get what that meant at first, but it's about protecting people, making sure everyone's safe. It's pretty cool." Noah took over, his voice more confident than usual. "My dad always says that doing the right thing isn't always easy, but it's worth it. I wanted to share that because it's not just his job that makes him a hero, it's who he is." The class was silent for a moment, and then applause broke out. Genuine, not mocking. Mrs. Blake nodded approvingly. "That was very well done, boys." After that, Austin stuck by Noah's side more often. He wasn't perfect. Sometimes he'd say something thoughtless without realizing it, but when Noah pointed it out, Austin would actually listen. They played basketball more frequently, and Austin introduced Noah to some of the other kids. Gradually, Noah found himself surrounded by a group of friends, no longer the lonely new kid. One afternoon, after basketball practice, Austin pulled Noah aside. You know, my dad, he still says stuff sometimes about people like your dad. I used to think he was always right, but I'm starting to get that he's not. You changed that for me. Noah wasn't sure how to respond at first. It was a lot to process. People can be wrong even if they're adults. My dad always says it's okay to change your mind when you know better. Austin grinned. Your dad's pretty smart. I guess I've got some stuff to figure out. Noah just smiled. Me too. And by the time summer rolled around, their friendship was solid. They shared jokes, stories, and even teamed up for the school's science fair, winning second place with a project on community safety. Mrs. Blake, who had once barely acknowledged Noah, now praised their teamwork, and the principal even mentioned their presentation during a school assembly. One evening, as they shot hoops in Austin's driveway, Austin paused, the ball tucked under his arm. You know, I used to think you were trying to show off when you talked about your dad, but I get it now. You were just proud. I guess I'm proud too, to know you. Noah looked at him, surprised at the honesty. Thanks. I'm glad we're friends. Austin shot a three-pointer, grinning as the ball swished through the net. Yeah, me too. As the sun dipped below the Chicago skyline, Noah felt a sense of belonging he hadn't experienced since leaving D.C. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. He had faced his fears, told his truth, and made a friend who, despite his flaws, was willing to learn and change. Noah knew there would still be challenges, but with friends like Austin by his side, he felt ready to take them on. As the summer approached, the energy at Lincoln Park Elementary School shifted from the tense uncertainty of the winter months to a newfound warmth that echoed in the hallways. Noah Johnson had finally found his place among his peers, but the journey to acceptance had been anything but straightforward. The days following his father's powerful intervention had set a change in motion, one that rippled through not just his own life, but the lives of his classmates and teachers. One morning, Mrs. Blake stood at the front of the classroom, adjusting her glasses as she announced the latest project. As we wrap up the year, I'd like each of you to write an essay about a lesson you learned this year. Think of something that changed how you see the world or yourself. The students groaned, but Noah couldn't help the small smile tugging at his lips. He knew exactly what he wanted to write about. In the days that followed, he sat at his desk, pouring his thoughts onto paper. He wrote about moving to Chicago, the isolation he felt, and the pain of being doubted. He wrote about his dad's courage, about standing up for the truth even when no one believed him. Most of all, he wrote about forgiveness, how it wasn't just about letting go of anger, but about giving people the chance to change. When Noah handed in his essay, Mrs. Blake paused to read the first few lines, her usually stern expression softening. She glanced at Noah with a small, almost proud smile. Noah wasn't sure what to make of it, but he felt a surge of confidence knowing he had shared his story openly. In the following weeks, the Community Heroes Club became more than just an after-school activity. It was a movement within the school. Students from different grades started showing up, curious about the meetings. Mrs. Blake, who had once dismissed the idea as trivial, now actively supported the club's activities. She arranged for guest speakers, including local firefighters and community leaders, who shared their stories of perseverance and responsibility. Noah, now seen as a leader, found himself at the center of these activities, not because he sought the spotlight, but because his story resonated with others. During one meeting, Austin suggested organizing a community cleanup day. The idea caught on, and soon the entire club was buzzing with plans. On the day of the event, they gathered at the school's front yard, armed with gloves, trash bags, and a sense of purpose. Robert even showed up to help, and seeing his dad working alongside his classmates made Noah's heart swell with pride. Later that afternoon, as they took a break under the shade of a large oak tree, Austin nudged Noah. You know, I didn't think I'd ever be part of something like this. I used to think clubs were for nerds. Noah laughed. I guess we're nerds now. Austin grinned. Maybe being a nerd isn't so bad. Plus, it's cool seeing everyone actually care about something. The cleanup day turned out to be more than just an event. It was a statement. The students of Lincoln Park Elementary, led by two unlikely friends, had transformed a simple idea into a community effort. Even Mrs. Blake, who helped sort recyclables, seemed more approachable, offering smiles and words of encouragement. At the next club meeting, Mrs. Blake surprised everyone with an announcement. The principal has nominated our club to present at the district's Youth Leadership Conference next month. They want us to share how our club fosters inclusion and community engagement. The room erupted in cheers. Noah and Austin were chosen to give the presentation, much to Austin's mock horror. Public speaking? Seriously? He groaned. You'll be fine, Noah assured him. Just tell the truth. On the day of the conference, Noah stood behind the podium, looking out at the crowd of students, teachers, and community leaders. He felt his pulse quicken but steadied himself, remembering his father's words. Austin was beside him, shifting nervously but managing a smile. Hi, I'm Noah Johnson, and this is Austin Miller. We started the Community Heroes Club because we wanted to make our school a place where everyone feels they belong, Noah began. He talked about how the club had helped him find his voice, how it taught him that courage isn't just about standing up for yourself, but helping others stand up too. Austin spoke about how his own perspective changed, how he learned that judging someone before knowing them was unfair and harmful. The audience listened intently, and when the presentation ended, applause erupted. As they left the stage, several students approached them with questions about starting similar clubs at their schools. Mrs. Blake, watching from the back, wiped a tear from the corner of her eye. Afterward, the principal personally thanked Noah and Austin for their leadership. You two have made this school a better place, he said warmly. Back at home that evening, Noah recounted every detail to his parents, his excitement spilling over. Robert ruffled his hair, pride evident on his face. You did good, son. Really good. As the school year drew to a close, the final assembly was held in the gymnasium. Principal Harper called Noah and Austin to the stage to receive certificates for their outstanding contribution to the school community. Standing in front of the entire student body, Noah felt a swell of pride, not just for himself, but for everyone who had grown alongside him. Afterward, Austin gave Noah a nudge. Never thought I'd be getting an award for being a good guy, he joked. Guess people can change, Noah replied, his smile wide. Walking home that day, Noah knew that moving to Chicago had been more than just another change. It had been the challenge he needed to discover his own strength. He wasn't just surviving anymore, he was thriving, surrounded by friends who respected him, a teacher who had learned to change, and a dad who reminded him that truth and integrity were worth fighting for. As they reached their house, Noah glanced back at the street, at the neighborhood that had once felt so hostile. Now, it felt like home. The first week of summer vacation at Lincoln Park Elementary was marked not by quiet relaxation, but by a surge of enthusiasm surrounding the Community Heroes Club. After their success at the Youth Leadership Conference, Noah and Austin found themselves at the center of attention, not just within their school, but throughout the community. News of their presentation had reached the local newspaper, and a reporter even stopped by to interview the boys about their journey from rivalry to friendship. Sitting on his porch with Austin, Noah read through the printed article, his name in bold. Noah Johnson and Austin Miller, building bridges in Chicago. The headline made him grin. Austin just laughed and nudged him. Dude, we're famous, he joked. Noah glanced at his dad, Robert, who was leaning against the porch railing, a rare, proud smile on his face. Fame isn't everything, son, Robert said, but there was warmth in his tone. But making a difference, that's something worth being known for. That afternoon, the club met at the local community center where Mrs. Blake was waiting with news. After the success of the cleanup day, the district superintendent wants to expand the club's model to other schools, she announced. The room erupted into cheers. Noah couldn't believe how far his simple idea had come. Austin clapped Noah on the shoulder. "Your idea, man. You started all this." Noah shook his head. "We all did. It wouldn't have worked without everyone pitching in." With the new school year approaching, Mrs. Blake encouraged the club to brainstorm ways to make an even bigger impact. Emma suggested a peer mentoring program where older students could support younger ones. Matthew wanted to host a community safety workshop with local police and firefighters. Ideas flowed freely, and for the first time, Noah felt like he wasn't just accepted, he was respected. As they walked home, Austin admitted something that had been on his mind. "You know, before all this, I didn't really think about other people much. Just did my own thing. Now, it's different. I actually like being part of something." Noah understood the feeling. Moving to Chicago had felt like the end of his world, but it had turned out to be the beginning of something much bigger. The next few weeks flew by in a whirlwind of planning. Mrs. Blake organized a meeting with the parents, inviting Robert to speak about his journey as an FBI agent and what it meant to uphold justice, both on the job and in everyday life. During the meeting, Robert spoke with a calm authority that captivated the audience. He didn't just talk about his work, he spoke about integrity, fairness, and the importance of judging people based on their actions rather than preconceived notions. Lisa watched from the back, her eyes shining with pride. After the talk, parents approached Noah, complimenting him on his leadership and thanking Robert for his honesty. One mother, whose son had previously been part of Austin's circle, pulled Noah aside. "You know, after what happened, Austin's been talking differently at home, more thoughtful. Whatever you did, thank you for helping him see things differently." Noah didn't know how to respond. Hearing that his efforts were making a difference beyond school filled him with a sense of purpose. That evening, he shared the compliment with his parents. Robert squeezed his shoulder. "Sometimes change starts small, son. You never know how far it'll reach." One Saturday morning, while practicing basketball at the park, Noah spotted Austin coming toward him, holding a flyer. "You know how my dad's all about football?" Austin began, looking uncharacteristically nervous. "He's starting a youth sports camp, and he wants you to help out." Noah raised an eyebrow. "Me? Why?" Austin shrugged. "He says you're good with people. He wants the camp to be about teamwork, not just winning. He thinks you can help teach that." Noah couldn't help but smile. "Yeah, I'd like that." That summer, the camp became another unexpected success. Kids from different neighborhoods signed up, and while Austin's dad focused on athletic drills, Noah helped run team-building exercises. The lessons from the Community Heroes Club became central to the camp's philosophy: respect, understanding, and never judging someone before knowing their story. During the closing day of the camp, Austin's dad called Noah over. "You know, when Austin first told me about you, I didn't get it. Thought you were just another kid looking for attention. But I see it now. You've got heart. You made my boy think, and that's more than most people do. You're welcome here anytime." Hearing that from a man who had once dismissed him as just another outsider made Noah feel lighter. He knew he wasn't just making friends, he was changing minds. When the new school year began, Lincoln Park Elementary looked different to Noah. It wasn't the daunting place it had been months ago. Now, it felt like home. On the first day back, Mrs. B. Blake announced that Noah and Austin would continue leading the Community Heroes Club, and this time, they would be mentoring students from the lower grades. One afternoon, as the sun dipped below the Chicago skyline, Noah sat on the school steps next to Austin. They watched the younger kids racing around the playground, their laughter ringing through the crisp air. Austin glanced at Noah, a rare serious expression on his face. You ever think about how things would have been if your dad hadn't shown up that day? Noah thought about it. The pain, the loneliness, the fear of being labeled a liar. He nodded. Yeah, but he did, and it changed everything. Austin smirked. Yeah, your dad's pretty badass. Noah laughed. Yeah, he is. The new year brought new challenges, but Noah wasn't afraid anymore. He knew who he was, knew what he stood for, and he had friends who stood with him. As he walked home that day, with Austin beside him, Noah felt a quiet certainty that whatever came next, he was ready. He wasn't just the new kid anymore. He was a leader, a friend, and most importantly, someone who had found his place. In the heart of Chicago, Noah Johnson had not only built bridges, but laid the foundation for a community where respect and understanding prevailed. And as he looked out at the sprawling city, he couldn't help but feel proud, not just of how far he'd come, but of the legacy he was building, one friendship at a time. The first few weeks of the new school year at Lincoln Park Elementary were a whirlwind of activity, with the Community Heroes Club thriving like never before. What had started as a small group of curious students had grown into a robust organization that brought together kids from every grade. Mrs. Blake, who had once doubted the project, now served as its proud sponsor, often sharing stories about how leadership can come from the most unexpected places. One Friday afternoon, as the club gathered in the gym to discuss their next community project, Austin pulled Noah aside, his face unusually serious. Hey, something weird happened today, Austin whispered. Noah raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? Austin hesitated. There's this new kid in class, Darius. He just moved here from Atlanta. Some of the older guys are giving him a hard time, saying stuff about his accent and how he doesn't belong. I tried to tell them to back off, but they just laughed. Noah felt a familiar pang in his chest, a reminder of his own experience as the new kid. He looked around the gym at the other club members, most of them unaware of the situation. We can't let that happen, he said firmly. If anyone knows how it feels, it's us. Together, they approached Mrs. Blake, explaining what had happened. She listened carefully, her brow furrowing. Bullying in any form isn't acceptable, she said. I'll address it with the administration, but in the meantime, why don't we make Darius feel welcome? Maybe we can plan something to help him feel like he's part of the school. Austin nodded, already brainstorming. What if we did a welcome event, a small party or something, where he can meet people without feeling singled out? The idea quickly took shape, and by the following Monday, the club had planned a new friend social to welcome not just Darius, but any new students who had joined the school recently. They decorated the gym with streamers and balloons, set up tables with snacks, and created icebreaker games to help everyone feel comfortable. When Darius walked in, his eyes widened in surprise. He hesitated at the door until Noah approached him, offering a friendly smile. Hey Darius, I'm Noah. Welcome to Lincoln Park. Darius smiled shyly. Thanks. I didn't know there was going to be a party. It's for all the new kids, Noah explained. We just wanted you to know that you're part of the team here. As the event went on, Darius slowly relaxed, laughing along with the others as they played games and shared stories. Austin introduced him to some of his friends, and for the first time since arriving, Darius didn't feel like he had to prove himself. Later that evening, as the event wound down, Mrs. Blake gathered the group for a few words. This is what community looks like, she said, her voice warm and proud. It's not about who's been here longest or who knows the most people. It's about making sure everyone feels valued and respected. You all did that today. After the social, Darius became a regular at the Community Heroes Club, quickly finding his own place among the group. One afternoon, while hanging out on the basketball court, he turned to Noah. Thanks for looking out for me. I thought I'd just be invisible here. Noah shrugged modestly. I know what it's like to be the new kid. Nobody deserves to feel left out. Darius grinned. You know, back in Atlanta, I was part of a group that did community service. We helped clean up the park and did food drives. Maybe we could do something like that here. Noah's eyes lit up. That's a great idea. Let's bring it up at the next meeting. At the next club session, Darius shared his experiences, and the group immediately embraced the idea of doing more hands-on projects. Mrs. Blake suggested they partner with a local shelter, and soon they had organized a donation drive for warm clothing and blankets. The project brought even more students into the club, including some who had never participated before. As they collected items and sorted them, Noah noticed Austin talking to Darius, the two laughing easily like old friends. It made him realize how far they had all come, not just as individuals, but as a community. The day they delivered the donations to the shelter, the club members couldn't hide their pride. The shelter director gave them a heartfelt thanks, emphasizing how much their efforts would mean to those in need. On the way back, Austin nudged Noah. This feels good. Better than any basketball win. Noah nodded. Yeah, it's different when you know you're helping someone. Later that week, Mrs. Blake announced that the school would be holding a special assembly to honor the Community Heroes Club for their contributions. Noah felt a strange mix of pride and humility as he prepared to speak. When the day came, he stepped up to the microphone, scanning the crowd. He spotted Darius and Austin giving him thumbs-ups from the front row. This club started because I needed to find my place, Noah began. I was the new kid. I felt alone. But sometimes, when you feel like you don't belong, you just have to create a space where you do. We decided to make our own community, one where everyone is welcome, and that's how it should always be. The applause was deafening, but Noah knew it wasn't just for him. It was for everyone who had chosen to be better, to be braver, and to look out for each other. As he stepped down, Austin grabbed him in a quick hug. You killed it, man. Walking home that day, Noah felt lighter than he had in months. Moving to Chicago had seemed like the hardest challenge, but now he saw it as the best thing that had ever happened. He had found friends, built a community, and proved that no matter where you start, you could always find a way to stand tall. In the distance, the city skyline glowed in the fading light, and Noah knew that no matter what came next, he would face it with the same courage that had gotten him this far. The story of Noah Johnson is not just a tale of a young boy navigating the challenges of moving to a new city. It is a profound exploration of resilience, courage, and the power of community. When Noah first arrived in Chicago, he was just a kid burdened with the weight of uncertainty, loneliness, and the fear of not being accepted. Leaving behind the familiar streets of Washington, D.C., he stepped into a world where people judged him not by who he was, but by what they assumed him to be. At the heart of Noah's struggle was his identity as the son of an FBI agent. When he tried to share this truth on career day, it backfired spectacularly. His classmates, led by Austin, mocked him, and his teacher, Mrs. Blake, dismissed his words as fabrications. The humiliation he faced was a bitter reminder that people often see only what they want to see, letting bias and prejudice cloud their judgment. But Noah's story does not end with defeat. His father, Robert Johnson, refused to let the truth remain buried under the weight of others' doubts. In one powerful moment, Robert entered the classroom and shattered the illusion that Noah was just another kid making up stories. By presenting his badge and calmly but firmly confronting Mrs. Blake, Robert did more than just clear his son's name. He taught the entire school a lesson about integrity, standing up for oneself, and breaking down stereotypes. This pivotal moment became a catalyst for change, not just for Noah, but for his classmates and his teacher. It marked the beginning of a transformation in how they perceived Noah, and, more importantly, how they understood the danger of quick judgments. Mrs. Blake, initially rigid and dismissive, learned to see beyond appearances and began to support Noah, realizing that being a teacher meant more than just imparting knowledge. It meant nurturing respect and understanding. The story takes a beautiful turn when Noah, instead of holding on to resentment, chooses the path of forgiveness. He accepts Austin's apology, realizing that change often requires a willingness to let go of anger. This act of forgiveness sets the foundation for an unlikely friendship, one built on honesty and the shared realization that people can change if given the chance. The formation of the Community Heroes Club becomes a symbol of this new mindset. It is not just a gathering of students, it is a platform for learning, growing, and embracing differences. Through their club activities, Noah and Austin take what was once a hostile environment and transform it into a space of collaboration and mutual support. They clean the community, engage younger students, and inspire their peers to take ownership of their actions. The club's success at the Youth Leadership Conference further cements the idea that small actions can lead to significant changes. Darius's arrival marks another challenge, reminding Noah of his own early days at Lincoln Park Elementary. Instead of letting Darius face the same isolation he once did, Noah and Austin make a deliberate effort to welcome him, organizing a social event that shows how far they have come from their own days of conflict. In doing so, they demonstrate that acceptance is not just a personal journey but a communal responsibility. Through the ups and downs, Noah's journey is a testament to the resilience that young people can possess when guided by courage and the willingness to confront uncomfortable truths. His friendship with Austin, once marked by antagonism, becomes a partnership that bridges differences and sets an example for others. They learn that leading by example means standing up when it's difficult, admitting when you're wrong, and choosing to build instead of tear down. One of the most significant lessons from Noah's journey is the importance of persistence in the face of adversity. Noah could have given up. He could have let the ridicule make him withdraw completely. Instead, he chose to fight for his truth, supported by a father who showed him that dignity lies in not letting others' prejudices define you. By facing his challenges head on, Noah grew stronger, more empathetic, and more confident in his own identity. This story also teaches that real change requires both accountability and grace. Mrs. Blake had to face the consequences of her actions, but Noah's willingness to forgive allowed her to grow as a person and a teacher. Similarly, Austin's journey from being a bully to being a friend was made possible because Noah did not shut him out. Instead of holding on to bitterness, Noah chose to let friendship bloom where there had once been conflict. For viewers, Noah's story is a reminder that we all have moments when we feel like outsiders, where our truth is questioned or dismissed. In those moments, we can choose to shrink back or stand firm. Noah's journey shows that standing firm not only changes how others see us, but also reshapes the community around us. It teaches us that kindness, forgiveness, and the courage to speak up can break down even the most ingrained prejudices. In life, you will encounter situations where you are judged unfairly or where others doubt your capabilities. The lesson here is not to let those moments define you. Instead, draw strength from your truth, seek support from those who believe in you, and never stop pushing back against ignorance. Just as Noah did, you can transform your struggles into a powerful story of growth. If you've ever felt like Noah, doubted, misunderstood, or isolated, remember that you are not alone. You have the power to change perceptions by staying true to yourself. Don't be afraid to share your story, even if some people aren't ready to hear it. Your voice is powerful. Use it to inspire change, to build connections, and to stand for what is right. Thank you for joining us on this emotional and inspiring journey with Noah Johnson. His story reminds us that courage and kindness can transform lives and communities. If you found this story meaningful, Please support our channel by liking, sharing, and subscribing. Your support helps us continue bringing you stories that uplift and inspire. Stay tuned for more content that celebrates resilience and the human spirit.